Hey, thanks for joining us for another edition of 3Squares. We are thrilled you are with us. We have another stellar guest today, and we hope that you find the conversation interesting and valuable as well. I'm Charlie Arnott with the Center for Food Integrity and Look East, Keeping Food Trustworthy, with my co-hosts Kevin Ryan and Susan Schwally.
And I'm Susan Schwally with Circana, where we bring clarity to consumer behavior. And I've been rattling around the food system and market research for a couple decades, studying what consumers eat and drink.
And I'm Kevin Ryan with Malachite Strategy and Research, helping CPG and retail companies with the front end of innovation.
Exciting. Well, so today we are excited also to have a guest with us, Christine Daugherty. She's a lawyer and a doctor and I don't know, lots of things. So we'll talk a little bit more with Christine in just a little bit, but she is a global sustainability executive, expertise in creating goals and execution plans, managing complex topics, successfully navigating ambiguity, which is a challenge, and delivering results. She has expertise in operations and governance and prioritizes business value creation and return on ESG investment. She leans into creating positive impact, proven success, utilizing legal expertise in policy, intellectual property, and innovative technologies. Christine previously worked at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to identify and evaluate private sector business partners that could help address agriculture and climate change challenges in sub-Saharan Africa. Prior to joining the Gates Foundation, she was VP of Sustainable Agriculture and Responsible Sourcing at PepsiCo, where she drove global transformation and innovation through agriculture solutions. And where I first met Christine was when she worked at Tyson Foods, where she held various roles, including Vice President of Sustainable Food Production. As I mentioned, she holds a number of degrees, a Juris Doctor degree from University of Arkansas School of Law, postdoctoral in plant gene regulation from the University of Florida, PhD in plant physiology from Louisiana State University, as well as a Master of Science degree in plant pathology from Iowa State University. So if your plants need a lawyer, Christine is the person to call. Glad you're with us, Christine. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to the conversation. And Kevin and Susan, really good to be on this podcast with you virtually.
Wonderful. Christine, so nice to meet you. My plants probably do need a lawyer, but we can talk about that after the show. And I
at least a protection order, if nothing else.
Pardon?
At least a protection order, if nothing else.
Wait, from me, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, right.
You got it, yeah. They want more fertilizer and love. And I really want to ask you about Bill and Melinda, but we are here to talk about sustainability in the food system. So I'm just curious, for openers, can you tell us what you see in terms of some of the greatest opportunities to really make a difference in sustainability across food and beverage?
Yeah, thanks, Susan, for that question. You know, as we were just chatting before we started, technology, I think, is going to be something that many companies are going to lean into, and especially in agriculture and the food and bev. If you think about our supply chain, there are large-scale operations in the U.S. and in the world that can use precision agriculture. They know the feet and inches of the edge of a field. They can detect how much fertilizer needs to be used. And then you go all the way to the other end of the spectrum. If you're thinking about smallhold farmers in developing countries, pretty much all of them have some type of a phone, a smart-ish phone. And so they can receive maybe some high-resolution images, but they can absolutely get SMS texting. Think about pests are coming your way. You might want to, add additional water. So I would say the technology innovation is absolutely critical. And then with that is, how do large companies report out and work with their supply chain on water management, soil health, cold chain, things like that. So I see some really interesting things coming down the pike, utilizing innovation and sustainability, especially in agriculture.
I know you've worked with a lot of companies, Christine, and I'm just curious, I know a lot of companies are, they talk about sustainability, they're moving toward trying to be greener, but what have you noticed when it comes to what are the biggest barriers to really making a difference, I should say, in the sense of sustainability? I mean, are you seeing some commonalities among businesses when it comes to sustainability?
Yeah, I would say if we rewind the clock, and this is where Charlie and I first met. Companies started out with true, like, the CSR. We want to be good in our community. We're going to have a beach cleanup and things like that. And as we've morphed into more sophistication around how companies think about sustainability, they're looking at combining the sustainability efforts with the business case. And so if you're a for-profit company, you absolutely need to do the right thing, but is it just a philanthropic that's going to be driven through the foundation? Or are you going to be working with the P&L owner, the procurement, and those entities so that the product coming into the back of the plant has been produced responsibly, it's got less inputs, it may be a better quality, and hopefully you got a better price along the value chain. That's, I think, what's going to drive companies to lean more into sustainability efforts if they can combine that doing things responsibly with the business case.
I'm going to follow up on that, Christine. All of us who have seen and worked with a number of different companies, and I like the way you kind of described the evolution, but I still see companies kind of at both ends of that spectrum. There are still companies that are still stuck very much in the CSR mentality. We're going to do this because our competitors are doing it, and we need to have some kind of report, but they haven't really figured out the business case for it. And then you have those that are actually extracting value and returning some of that value to their supply chain. What do you see as the differences between those companies? Is it leadership? Is it technology? Is it philosophy? Is it where they are in the food system? But what do you see as the drivers between those two, and how do companies get from being, we'll do this because we have to, from that to we're going to do it because it's good business?
Yeah, I think all of the above. I think the idea of leadership, and leadership comes not only from the CEO, but if the company has a board, is the board willing to lean in and push the management? I also think it comes from, they don't know. If you think about agricultural and food and beverage supply chains, they're pretty complex unless you're just, purchasing a fresh product and you go from a field to the distribution and into the retailer. But if you have a complex product, you may have the main ingredients, you have other types of seasoning, you may have flavors, you have packaging associated with it. And so those things all lend itself to additional challenges. So having the ability to engage with your supply chain, kind of peel back the onion, ask hard questions, it is sometimes tough. Where do you start? So companies may not necessarily know where to start. And then the other thing that I think even companies that are doing it right struggle with is siloed organizations. So sustainability may be in this part and they function here, but yet they got to partner with procurement, who then partners with the P&L owner, and everyone is not reporting into a similar organization unless you get all the way to the CEO, and they all have different interests. And so that siloed aspect is tough for many companies to break down those barriers and drive it forward.
Yeah, it's a great point, because I've seen this on other initiatives, be it animal welfare, environmental improvements. If the P&L owner is not bought in, it's short-lived.
That's correct. Yeah. That's why the business case, in my opinion, is so very important, because if you're the P&L owner and your cost input is X, and I can then say, well, I've worked with our suppliers and supply chain, and we're going to reduce the amount of input on the product in question, and we're going to have a better product, and we're at farmer loyalty, and we've driven down the cost slightly, or it's cost neutral. that should make you happy. You're not going to be happy if I come and say, hey, it's going to cost you now, another dollar per item or $1 a pound. You're going to be like, Christine, go talk to somebody else.
Mhm.
Yeah. So let me follow up on that. And I'll stop hogging the conversation after this one, I promise. So during the pandemic, we saw a great deal of increased awareness of the fragility in the supply chain. And a lot of organizations have transitioned, or at least considering just in case, not just in time, right? So it's not just in time alone is no longer sufficient. There's also the just in case. People have realized that with climate change and that many smallholders are one weather event or one economic event from no longer being in business, that we've got to focus on resiliency across the entire supply chain, but it also has to focus on resiliency of the primary producer, because if there is no primary producer, there is no supply chain. And yet we still see many sustainability mandates come with little or no economic incentive, especially for primary producers. Now, one of your previous employers, PepsiCo, I think has some fairly innovative initiatives and is doing some things there that I think are interesting. Not asking you to comment on that one specifically, but what mechanisms have you seen that work to incent or reward primary producers for adopting these change in practices?
Yeah, farmers, primary producers, they're business people. I mean, yes, there may be some individuals that are doing it, out of the goodness of their heart, philanthropic, but those are few and far between. And so they're looking at the changes in practice in the same light that the large scale companies are looking at it. So they want to know, if I change this practice, what is the value that I get? And Charlie, you and I have talked about this in the past. When a farmer has to change a practice, for example, to lean into better soil health, they go through what's called the valley of the death. So they may be producing at a level, they change the practice, and it drops on yield, maybe it drops on quality. And so that drop, and the farmer's losing money. But that practice hopefully is going to make that bell curve come back up, and they're going to be better off. The incentive is, how do you keep that primary producer par? Mm-hmm. Because the margins are razor thin. So things such as grants or subsidies, i.e., we're going to pay you, farmer, to change to maybe a no-till or strip till or something. And we know it's going to take maybe 2 planting seasons or 2 years to get you better soil health, so you have to use less fertilizer. Therefore, we're going to keep you whole for that 2 years. It's not going to be a forever payment, but it allows that farmer to get through that valley of the death. The other thing that I think we're starting to see, maybe, in the US and others, are what types of tax benefits or crop insurance discount can that farmer get, so that he or she, if they're doing these practices, can get a reduced premium. Oh, you're going to do this, therefore you may be better to withstand a drought. Or 2, if you do this, we may give you a better rate, maybe on a loan or tax. So those are things that if we can figure out how to mitigate or reduce that valley of death gap, I think is really important. And then the other thing, and then I'll pause, is having the technical assistance and training for those farmers that want to change. Mm-hmm. Let's think about it in the US. When I was growing up in Iowa, so many years ago, there were a lot of extension agents all over. And they went to your farm, or you could take a soil sample down to the local wherever, and they helped farmers address the issue. We have few, if any, extension agents anymore. So those resources are not there for farmers that want to change practices. So providing technical assistance, there's Practical Farmers of Iowa that I'm familiar with. They help those farmers on that transition. They give some suggestions. The farmer to farmer learning that they can talk about the practices in the local coffee shop or wherever, absolutely get critical to get those farmers to buy into the change.
Thank you.
So Christine, I'm just, it's fascinating listening to these things that you're talking about that could potentially or are moving things in the food system to a more sustainable way. One of my favorite questions I want to ask you about this is, out of those things, or maybe there's others, if you had a magic wand, it's the magic wand question, Christine. If you had a magic wand and you were, Grand Poobah of the food system for the day, what would be the top thing you'd focus on to make food more sustainable? What horse would you have in the race?
Well, I would have 3 horses. That way you
win, place, and show. There you go.
Yeah, we like a trio. We like a 3. Power of 3.
You get 3 horses to run. One of my horses, and we opened the conversation, is a technology innovation horse. I think we've got a lot of really interesting things coming down the pike: precision ag, innovation through AI, biological inputs, water saving technology. So horse technology innovation is one of the horses. Got a jockey on that one. The other is around the true promoting the sustainable ag practices. And that could come from technology, like I said, or learning, but encourage and support those farmers that want to change because they see the business value. They see, I have less inputs if I do this. We have got to help them get past the valley of the death. And so that promoting from corporations or government or consumers, promoting that sustainable ag is my second horse. And then the third horse is something that I do personally, and I think everybody can do personally, is let's eat foods in season. So when I was growing up in Iowa, we did not have watermelon in December.
Right.
Why? Because it wasn't in season. And yet when watermelon came around, it was great. So as the third racehorse, is a personal thing that everybody can do is push on those in-season foods. And that will really help our ag supply chain and others, because do we really need the strawberries and the watermelons in December?
Do I need asparagus right now from Peru? Because that's what my husband picked up at the grocery store, and my head exploded.
Correct.
But
now, with that, one of the things, I'm learning, my husband and I, is how many different ways can you take different squash and make different things? It's fun. If you like to innovate and you like to cook, there's plenty of recipes out there. There's plenty of YouTubes. Try something new that you haven't had, that's an in season and a local fruit or vegetable.
And let me recommend
squash.
this cookbook by Kevin Ryan, Why It Works, the Betty Crocker cookbook that Kevin Ryan wrote. I'll just make that plug for this right now. Christmas is coming up.
Honey nut squash
on Amazon.
Have you tried honey nut squash? It is amazing. It's the mini version of butternut squash. It's like a condensed, very delicious.
I need a recipe.
That
Kevin.
sounds good.
Yeah, oh, it's delicious. It's a light more. It's like a stronger flavored acorn squash. It's gorgeous. But
is it called honey nut?
Honey nut, yeah. So it's like a mini version. It looks like a mini version of butternut.
I thought you were making like a honey nut Cheerio.
No, I know that's what I thought when I saw it. But
situation, I was
like
really lost there. But okay, all right.
So switching gears. So I have a question. You were talking about consumers, and I think so I deal a lot with bigger CPG corporations that are making big commitments to sustainability. Mm-hmm. But one of the big things that comes up is that if you talk to most Gen Pop consumers, they're all for sustainability, as long as they don't have to pay for it in a product, and as long as it tastes the same, and as long as it doesn't reduce the convenience and all that kind of thing. How do you talk about that with corporations? How do you discuss that disconnect with corporations about, consumers' willingness to pay, or consumers' interest with their continued ability to, or continued interest in themselves as a corporation doing sustainability?
Yeah, that's a great question, Kevin. And I would say, as a consumer, you guys are all consumers. We can go into a grocery store or whatnot, and we can pick up something. And I consider myself, pretty savvy, but sometimes there's labels and things on there that I'm like, what in the world is this? And so, I think the idea of how do we educate consumers in a way that is meaningful for them. And, I'm going to tell the story. And again, Charlie will probably smile. So, if you go in and you pick up a package of fresh chicken, there's going to be a call out that says no added hormones or steroids in the poultry. And it's going to be there on the label. And there's going to be a little asterisk. And, USDA banned that in the early 1950s. And so basically on that label, it says we're following the law because we're not adding added hormones or steroids. And so, but yet if the company doesn't put that on the package, the consumers are going to be like, oh, I'm not buying that. That's bad. Yeah. So that whole education, I think, is absolutely critical. And so if we follow that thread, if there is something on a package that says this is recyclable, this was made with post-consumer X percentage, does the consumer really know what that means? Mm-hmm. And then two, I have to give credit to companies that are really leaning in to some new packaging that is sustainable. And, it may be a slight increase. Will a consumer notice a 2-cent increase? I don't know, maybe not. Mm-hmm. But with that packaging and other things, we as a consumer may need to get out of our comfort zone. So let me give you another example. I was just at the store last week and I picked up some chicken, and I won't say the name, you can figure out who. I picked up some chicken and it was in a new packaging. It was in a pouch. Did not have a tray. It did not have the absorbent pad. And I brought it back home and I was like, well, this is kind of cool. I kind of like it, whatnot. Well, I opened it and, there could be some juice in there. So you have to open it carefully, make sure that you're not spreading it all over the counter. Some consumers may say, I don't like that. I'm going back because that's too much pain. Well, if I want recyclable packaging and I want to be helpful to the environment, I got to give a little bit. As a consumer, maybe I got to learn how to open the package right. So those are things that I hear and understand. Consumer may not want to pay. I get that. But consumers also have to give a bit. They may have to get out of their comfort zone and change some of the habits in a way that is going to help get us the packaging.
Yeah, I saw that at Costco on their cashews. They went from having the hard plastic, the rigid plastic, to pouches. And they say right there on the box and on the package why they made the change. Yeah. Right? That they made the change for reduced packaging, reduced shipping, et cetera. So they provided the justification, the why for it. And like, yeah, okay, I guess I could reach into a package as well as a carton for cashews. Last question before we go to the quiz: who's doing it well? If you were going to hold up 2 or 3 examples of companies that are kind of getting it right that others may want to emulate, who would be on that list for you?
Well, so I'm not going to name any particular company so we don't get into a food fight with those companies. But I would say those entities that are really, asking the tough questions about their supply chain, and that they're really going deep and they're reporting both the good and the bad. That's the thing. The companies that have the, ability to have a bit of negative on their report saying, well, we're not there yet, but these are the things we're working on, I have a very high respect for, because not everything is positive. So tell the reader, tell the stakeholder what's good and bad. And then the second thing is those companies that really are thinking about innovation, new packaging, new design, looking at how to educate the consumer. And then the third thing is those companies that are willing to work collaboratively across the supply chain. Sustainable ag is too big for one company to solve on its own, but can you work with, the primary producers, the insurance entities, the government, the financial entity, the distribution, those entities that are bringing everybody in to the table as stakeholders and looking and listening, I think are doing well.
Yeah, I was glad to hear you say those companies that are sharing good and bad. Our research would indicate that if you share the good, the bad, the ugly, you actually enhance trust and enhance credibility, because people know things don't always go the way it's planned, right? That would be ideal, but that's not the real world. So you actually enhance your credibility when you share a bit more of what's not going well. Christine, thank you. You are welcome to stick around for the quiz and watch me demolish Susan once again.
I am happy. I want to see what this quiz.
Yeah. Take part.
Like our last guest and I demolished you, so I think
You
Christine and I are going to be
you
amazing.
did. Yeah,
True.
I'm a little off my game. I mean,
I got a lawyer in my corner, Charlie.
I
what
had
you
a
got?
dominant. I had
Your
a
Nebraska knowledge. That's what
That's
you got.
it. That's
All
right.
right,
I
let's
had a
see.
good streak going, and it's been interrupted. But we'll see what happens today.
Okay,
All right, Kevin.
all right,
What are we
we'll
talking
see.
about today?
All right, this episode it's an autumnal quiz, because
Ooh.
we are definitely in the fall season. So everything in this quiz is about autumn and autumn related food, bev kind of stuff.
Honey nut.
Are there any questions about pumpkin spice? Can we just?
There is a
Oh.
question about pumpkin
Oh.
spice, but the
Okay.
first question is close. The first question is this: 95% of pumpkins grown in the U.S. are from what state?
Oh.
Is it A, California, B, Ohio, C, Indiana, or D, Illinois?
Wow.
Go to Indiana.
Indiana for Susan, locked in.
Go to
I'll
Indiana.
go for another one, Illinois, just for another ice state.
Illinois. Christine, do you have a guess?
So
California, Ohio, Indiana, or Illinois?
Oh, well, I'll go Ohio.
Okay. Charlie is correct. It is Illinois. And being a proud Illinoisan, yes, Illinoisan, I knew that. Morton, Illinois actually it calls itself the pumpkin capital. I always think it's Eureka, but it's Morton, Illinois. They grow 80% of the world's canned pumpkin
No
in
kidding.
Morton.
Wow.
Yeah, and Eureka. I'm pretty sure Eureka's up there too.
Did
All right.
any of you see the Guinness World Record where the gentleman it was the
Did.
longest canoe trip in a pumpkin?
Yeah.
No.
Longest trip.
No.
Yeah, longest trip
In
down
a
the river.
pumpkin?
Yeah. Yeah. He hollowed
a
out the
big pumpkin.
and put it down the river, and he had to go a certain distance to break the
Uh-huh.
Guinness World Record, and this was not that long ago. So
I
I
love
like
that
pumpkin chunkin', where
Oh,
they
yeah.
shoot pumpkins out of the air guns.
Yes,
Yeah.
those are awesome.
Oh, there you
All
go.
right, number 2. Bobbing for apples was
Gross.
originally associated with what? Was it A, to select a new village leader? Was it B, a courtship ritual? Was it C, an old way to test dental strength? Or was it D, a harvest ritual?
Or was it just simply a way to pass viruses across the entire
Yeah.
community and in one fell swoop?
That's
That's
true.
really what it is. That's true.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with harvest ritual.
Harvest ritual for Charlie.
Oh,
Susan or
that's what I
Christine?
was going to say.
Well, you can still say
you can
it.
you can still say it.
I'm going to go for the courtship ritual.
Okay, Christine got courtship. Susan?
I guess I'm gonna go with harvest ritual.
That's an
Harvest
odd
ritual.
courtship.
Christine is correct. It is a courtship
No
ritual.
way.
How is that a
Originally from the
courtship ritual?
14th century. What would happen is that the apples would be named with your potential suitor, your potential male suitor, and then women would try to bob for apples and grab the one that they thought they really, they had a crush on. And if you the role was, if you didn't get it on the first try, then you were, if you did get it on the first try, you were fated for love. It was kind of like throwing the corsage or throwing the
the
bouquet
bouquet
or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. So it was
glad
originally
we
a
don't
courtship
do
ritual.
that.
That's disgusting. That's
I have
You
disgusting.
grabbed the wrong apple and you wanted Steve, but you grabbed Bob.
I think
then
then that was considered fate, and then you had to go out. I
Oh
think that's
golly,
probably-
that's tough.
I don't know.
That's tough.
I don't know.
This
All right.
Just ways to hold women back.
I know. All right. Okay, which of the following actually has launched a pumpkin spice version? Everyone's launched a pumpkin spice. Which of the following has actually launched a pumpkin spice? Right. So which one is Crest toothpaste, Gushers, Kool-Aid, or Schweppes sparkling water? Which one actually has launched? So only
Schweppes.
one.
Yeah, I'm going to go Schweppes.
Schweppes. Christine?
I'll just go with Gushers, just for
I don't even know
fun.
what Gushers is.
Candy,
the
right?
candy,
Fruit
the
Gushers.
fruit candy. All of you are incorrect. It's Kool-Aid is the only one that has launched a pumpkin spice.
Really?
They launched a pumpkin spice concentrate. The rest
You
of
had
them
the men's soap that
never
you
done.
circulated, wasn't it? Men's soap that you circulated that was pumpkin
Yes.
spice. Men's
Yes, they
soap,
have done.
which is
Yes.
just disgusting.
Yes.
Mm.
All right. Next, if I gave you the following, what would I be giving you? If I gave you a stinking bishop, a negus, a toso, or a hippocress, what am I giving you? They're all similar versions of the same thing. A stinking bishop, a negus, a toso, or a hippocress. Am I giving you a type of autumn bun? Am I giving you a type of harvest stew? Am I giving you a type of mulled wine? Or am I giving you a type of root vegetable?
Root vegetable.
Root vegetable. Christine
Just to be different, I'm going to go with the mulled wine.
Charlie is correct. They are all mulled wines. Stinking
Like a
Bishop, of
lawyer.
course, is a British one.
Lawyer.
And then Negus is also British. Tasso is Japanese mulled wine. And Hippocras is, as you would guess, is Greek. So they're all hot, spiced wines.
All right. Last
Well,
question.
Last
clearly
question.
we've got to go to Charlie's house. Since he won, he needs to make this.
Last one. When and why were corn mazes invented? Was it the 1700s? Corn maze walks were a form of monastic meditation built in parts of Italy and Spain. Was it the 1820s? The first corn maze, or a labyrinth of corn, was built in England as a royal diversion to rival French garden hedges. Was it C, the 1950s? Corn mazes were used by the U.S. military as a way to train troops in navigation and strategy? Or was it D, the 1990s? The first corn maze was a passive art installation at a Pennsylvania college.
I'm going A, but I'm surprised there isn't something in there about it's a vehicle to put women in distress and men rescue them.
All right, A, 1700s. Monastic.
So I'm going to go with the alternative to the fancy garden.
Okay, you're going to go with the fancy garden in England. All right,
Yeah.
Christine?
Yeah. Well, just because, I'll pick something different. What was number C? Was that the
Military.
Military.
US military. You are all incorrect. It was the 1990s. The
Not till
first
then,
corn
huh?
maze was in 1993
No.
at Lebanon Valley College in Annville, Pennsylvania. It was created by a man named Don France. He's responsible also for producing the Super Bowl halftime shows and Broadway musicals like The Lion King and Beauty and the
Get
Beast.
out.
That was the first corn maze.
That's
don't believe it.
crazy. That's crazy.
I'm challenging this.
Well, what
Red flag.
drop the flag.
Red
Drop the
flag.
flag. Well,
Red
what I'm
flag. This is the
curious
first time I've ever red flagged you in like 3 years, Kevin.
about- He does Super
This
Bowls,
is
Broadway
consistent.
shows,
I've done
and
the
corn
I've done the
mazes.
research. I'm sure somebody
Children
somewhere.
of the Corn. I mean, come.
There was no corn maze in Children of the Corn, just creepy kids in
Same
between the
idea.
stalks. No, like a purposely maze throughout. No.
There's no way people haven't had corn mazes till the 1990s.
And then crop art.
1993.
We
No
got
way.
to look up crop art. Too.
1993 was a really long time ago. I hate to tell everybody
I
that,
know.
but it was.
I know. It's like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
All right. I
thank
believe
you,
Charlie
everybody,
won.
for joining us. Kevin, thank you so much for the quiz. As always, I'm glad I was able to beat Susan and Christine. Come back again. You can play again another time. So,
Christine,
Christine
I let
Daugherty,
him
thank
win,
you.
so his male ego is very fragile. He needs to win.
It's so
I just
fragile.
let him
It's
win.
so fragile. Thank you so much for joining
All
us,
right.
Christine. It was delightful.
Thank
So
you.
much great insight. Thanks to everybody for joining us again. You can reach out to us if you'd like at 3squaresmail@gmail.com. And we look forward to seeing you on the next edition of 3 Squares. Have a great rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.